York's classic rock, Q104.3.
Don't you just love it, Shelley, when you're listening to a recording and one of the artists is sitting right in the room?
I know. Don't you love that? Another reason to love this job, you know?
Yeah, Rick Allen is here of Def Leppard, an artist in more ways than one. And speaking of birthdays, it was Phil's birthday from Def Leppard yesterday.
It was.
And Rick is here with his family, and he was just telling me about the magic when you've got kids of New York City this time of year.
Oh, it's the best time.
It's so magical, you know. They go all out, you know. Just they're so festive. It's lovely. It's lovely.
How old are the kids?
Well, the little one, she's 6.
Oh, so it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
And this is her first time seeing New York at Christmas time?
She's been here a few times, but she doesn't really remember it. And now it's all starting to register. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
it's lovely.
Yeah, it's just
It's so magical. I mean, even for adults, every year I'm just blown away by, you know, how beautiful the city is.
Yeah, I could do without the weather, but you know.
Oh, well.
My
That's because you've been spoiled by 25 or so years of living in California.
my blood's getting a bit thin.
Okay, I mean, what was the weather like in the UK when you were growing up?
Oh, it was kind of like being here.
Right, so?
Now it rains a lot, you know. It doesn't snow quite as much, but nothing to do with the...
Well, Rick ended up in California, but he married a Flushing, Queens girl.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you meet?
Through a friend. She was in Colorado, and I met her, and it was like, I was like, who is this girl? I felt like I knew her, so that was it.
Huh.
That was like 16 years ago.
Does she have any family here in
I know everybody
town anymore?
here.
You know, all her cousins and uncles and aunts and everybody. I mean, Queens is a very family-oriented borough.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I feel very blessed.
But those big families, there has to be a demand. You probably have to buy a lot of tickets to your own show whenever you're in this area.
That's true. That is true.
Do you know that most people don't know that?
Yeah, they don't know that.
Most people
they think
don't-
you have like free tickets.
Most people don't know that, but when the artists give you tickets to their show, they have to buy them.
Yeah, I get about 10 freebies, and then the
And
rest
then that's
of it,
it.
it's like goes on the credit card. You know.
Isn't that,
Like the rest of us.
isn't that funny?
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, people just don't realize that.
But has it always been that way, or is that recent?
It hasn't always been that way. I think we all took advantage a little bit, you know, back in the day. But now it's a little more realistic, I think.
So, are you even aware of how many gazillion records Def Leppard has sold?
Oh, my goodness. I try not to think about it, but I do know that in Canada, when Hysteria came out, the birth rate spiked. So whatever that means. But,
So that was the music to make love to.
A lot of people bought that.
Wow.
I've actually heard that album specifically had that kind of effect.
Okay, now why do you think that is? Why?
Well, I guess people were enjoying the music and a lot more.
Well, we're going to play a song from Hysteria next.
So try to control yourselves.
Yeah, really.
Because
Really.
Sunday happens to be the most fertile day of the year, they say. So we're coming
Fantastic.
up on the most fertile day of the year.
The 11th
Yes.
is the most fertile day of the year.
I don't know who discovered this, but there
Well,
was a
somebody
study.
must have discovered
How
it.
does one
Yes.
prepare for that?
By listening to your music.
By putting on the Hysteria album.
That's right, playing Hysteria.
But I mean, you know, when you started playing the drums, you were 10 years old. When you were playing, and I guess from what I understand, you became really proficient really fast. So people started saying to you by the time you were 12 or 13 that you should make a career out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and then I met with Joe, and actually it was an interesting story. I read a piece in the local newspaper, and it said Leopard loses skins. So I was about to give up at the ripe old age of 14 because I was fed up with the local bands, and then I met with Joe and Steve in a local club, and then I went for an audition, got the job, and the rest is history.
At 14?
At 14, I joined Def Leppard around about my 15th birthday.
So what happened with touring and all that?
Well,
it was a little difficult.
I mean, seriously.
The school system were very impressed.
And what about your parents?
They were great. They really stood behind
well,
me.
they were the ones that were encouraging him.
Yeah,
they
but
were.
go on the road? Did they go on the road with you?
Not at that point. My brother actually spent quite a bit of time on the road with me.
And how much older is he?
He's like 5 years older than me.
Oh, it must have been a total party.
Talking about, whoa, party time for the Allen kids. Well, you know, his older brother ended up getting a nice career going for himself, too, in the music business and is traveling the world with Taylor Swift, you know, which
Yeah.
is, what's your brother's name?
Robert.
Robert. So that's look at his life changed,
Wow.
too. Because you knew how to play the drums so well, your brother's life changed, too,
And he could count.
which makes him better for a management
There
type
you
of
go.
situation.
I'd count to 4 and the band would come in most of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other brothers or sisters?
No, not that I know of.
Wow, so your parents is because your parents were so understanding and supportive.
Well,
And a
it was
little
kind of
crazy.
I'm not sure if it was a compliment or what, but I'm sure my mother was like, well, he's not going to be a brain surgeon.
Or she was realistic.
You know, the 80s were pretty good.
You know what? We grew up at a great time. You know, we grew up listening to fantastic music, and you know, the music that you hear Def Leppard play is the result of you know, fantastic childhood, 70s, and all the music and all the memorability you've got here. It's like it's all right up my alley. It's fantastic.
Now, on tomorrow from 5 in the afternoon until 8 at night, Rick's going to be at the mall at Short Hills, in Short Hills at the Wentworth Gallery, because you may not know this, even though he's a famous artist as a musician, he's also a very well-known artist in taking advantage of other media as well. And he has a show at the Wentworth Gallery.
Yeah, I think creativity is interchangeable. I think if you can play music, you can probably take photographs or write poetry or write or paint or.
Well,
you know.
tell us about your Purple Heart series, which was inspired by the courage of wounded warriors.
The interesting thing about that is a lot of the wounded warriors that I met, they were medically discharged, and it meant that they lost a certain identity, and the idea of reinventing yourself. And really, the Purple Heart was symbolic of being able to move forward in life and not necessarily as a soldier. So that was the kind of the idea behind it.
Well, your courage in dealing with a disability inspired people all over the world. You didn't give up. I mean, think about that.
Did you
I mean,
ever think of
about
giving
that.
up?
You know, you're a young kid. You're a drummer. You know, you have this great future.
I wanted
and-
to give up. It was horrible at the time. It was awful, and I never realized that it would become a blessing. And the reason for that is, you know, if you put yourself out there and you just go out there and try and inspire people, people come out of the woodwork, and I end up being inspired by others. So it becomes this wonderful two-way street.
How was it a blessing?
Because, you know, I'm able to you know, bring some light into the world, and inspire people, and as I say, you know, people often end up doing that with me. I see people that are in a way worse situation than me, and I'm inspired by that.
Now, I don't know if this is the sort of thing that Rick likes to talk about or not, but I like, you know, letting people know what people do. And Rick's not just a rock and roll star and an artist. Rick's a philanthropist. He is. He's a philanthropist.
That's very cool.
But you devote a lot of time to that. Project Resiliency, the Raven Drum Foundation.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. You know, even if that's just getting together with a bunch of warriors backstage at a Def Leppard concert and letting them and their families, you know, enjoy a really great evening. Or even deeper than that, we'll do, you know, retreats, which are based on more alternative. We do a lot of work with horses, equine-assisted therapies, breathing, meditation, drumming, writing, yoga, you name it. And I'm always the guinea pig, of course. They're like, well, Rick's all screwed up, so let him try it first. And honestly, it brings people out, and it's an alternative, it's an alternative to the kinds of medications that some of these people find themselves on.
And when our friends join you at the mall at Short Hills at the Wentworth Gallery tomorrow afternoon from 5 until 8 p.m., what works will they see on display?
Well, the cool thing is Wentworth they have many galleries all over the country. So what they do is they bring all the pieces into one place. So it's pretty much across the board. Everything that I've done, other than the ones that have been sold, of course.
But you have painting, photography.
Yeah, it's from photography. It's from sort of mixed media, total original, full paint, and now I've actually gone into wearable art, which is jewelry, and playable art, which is actually getting to work on painting up really cool drums.
Well, you
nice.
just showed me on your phone a picture of a drum that you painted. Is that drum going to be?
That is actually in Short Hills now.
There was one thing I wanted to ask you about quickly before we say goodbye and tell everybody again how they can meet you tomorrow. I understand that sometimes Def Leppard opens for itself.
Yes. Really interesting story. Phil's wife, Jackie, she was telling the story about the band that her husband played in, and her Midwestern accent came out, and it came out as Ded Flatbird. Def Leppard. so this girl thought that it was Ded Flatbird. So we kind of ran with it. We made up T-shirts, and then when we did the Vegas residency, it was like, well, we need an opening band. So Joe's like, let's do Ded Flatbird. So it meant that we could play every single song that we would never normally play.
Right. So they get to come out on stage and play whatever songs they want, even if they're not Def Leppard songs.
That's hilarious.
And then come out a few minutes later as Def Leppard and do all the hits.
But the funny thing was, a lot of the audience didn't think it was us. We were getting booed. And
Really?
Right. It was great. Like the worst cover band.
The usual opening act. The usual opening
Oh,
act.
no.
So you get to experience that again.
Yeah, again.
That's fantastic.
Rick Allen, tomorrow, 5 to 8 p.m. You can meet him in person at the mall at Short Hills at the Wentworth Gallery. There is an exhibition of his multimedia artwork, photography, and paintings, and jewelry.
And drums, and you name it.
Yep.
And me, I'm even for sale.
I'm afraid to ask.
No.
Well, but did you sign and number yourself?
And actually, there's a wide price range. So if you're shopping for Christmas or Hanukkah,
yeah, we just found out.
Yes, you can afford.
Right.
Yes.
There is artwork. There's some pricey artwork there, but there's plenty of artwork that regular people like us can afford.
Yeah, and Wentworth, they have a wonderful payment plan. They have very creative ways of getting this artwork to people. So it's really nice. I'm enjoying the whole thing.
Okay, well, we've got Bon Jovi tickets to give away right now as part of our Week in Review.
Oh, could I get a couple?
I don't know.
See, that's how today's world.
That's how the world works.
Yeah.
Bon Jovi at Madison Square Garden on April 7th. Well, you know the thrill of the arena tours,
especially Madison Square Garden. That is a special venue.
Yeah, everybody says that. And look at Billy Joel.
I know.
What he's done.
He lives there.
I know.
Once a month.
What a wonderful way to spend my birthday morning with this great artist and really, really terrific guy.
And just doing some great work and inspiring people every day.
Oh, cool.
And, I mean, I know you can't walk around and say, well, I'm a humanitarian. But you know something? I can say you're a humanitarian.
That's cool, man.
And
I appreciate it.
And it's our privilege to have you here with us this morning.
Well, we have a lot of history, and I always love coming on here and